Thank you so much for joining us, and thank all of you for joining us today. We're doing another episode of SCAN is Here to Help podcast, and where we bring you a lot of information about really important topics for the family, for the whole family, and then also we cover programs here at SCAN that serve the entire community. And remember that all of our services are free of charge. So today is going to be an exciting episode. I have here somebody that I really admire, and it's going to be a treat talking with you. And I really admire her because for the longest time, we wanted to do a type of therapy that we started back in 2005. And it involves a lot of training. It's really expensive training. It's for children that have difficulties with impulse control, or a lot of positional behaviors. Those kids that don't want to follow rules, or they don't want to follow commands, and they're really active. And then so then we try to implement it, and it was really costly, and we couldn't. I mean, we provided the therapy. It requires special equipment, a special room, etc. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. And then it never got to the level that we wanted it to get. We never got certified. And here, this young lady was able not only to get certified, and then you're going to tell us about that. Mm-hmm. So you want to tell us, let me backtrack a little bit. My name is Luis Flores, and I am a shelter administrator for one of the programs here at SCAN. And your name is?
My name is Melissa Rodriguez, and I am the program director for THV, Texas Home Visiting Program.
Texas Home Visiting Program.
Yes.
Both Melissa and I are licensed professional counselors, and we have a lot of experience providing therapy with different populations. So yeah, I'm really excited to have you here, and like I said, I really admire you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about parent-child interaction therapy? And I don't know if that's not what we're going to talk about in the program, but I think it is important for the public to know a little bit, and then maybe how you started and what kind of kids it helps, and how far you got there in certifications.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Flores, for having me today. And I'm excited about doing this podcast with you today. And so, yes, I think it's a great point for us to begin with PCIT. And so PCIT is parent-child interaction therapy. It is a therapy where the caregiver is the child's therapist, not us as therapists, right? But the parent is able to do the therapy with their child.
You train the parent.
We train the parent, right? And so I would always tell parents, child, caregiver, and myself, we're a team, and I'm rooting for both of them. But the parent is the one that is going to be having that interaction with the child, hence, right, PCIT, parent-child interaction therapy. And so the the counselor is the coach. And talking a little bit about the equipment that you mentioned earlier, so yes, so the parent is in the room with the child, the counselor is in a separate room. We're watching them from a camera. The caregiver has a little bug in the ear, and so we're coaching the parent the skills that we teach them prior, and say, hey, try this, try that, do some of the ignoring.
Over the microphone.
Through the microphone, and again, we're in a separate room. And so we're giving the parent coaching statements like, you're doing such a great job of ignoring that behavior you don't like, or your child really likes it when you repeat what he says, because that means that you're actually listening to them. And so that is PCIT, but so it has two phases. Let me explain a little bit about that, because the first phase is called child-directed interaction, where the child leads the play and the caregiver is just, following their lead, which is sometimes so hard to do as parents because we're so used to telling them what to do, right? But believe it or not, just in that phase alone, the parent really starts seeing a change in the child's behavior, because sometimes that's all a child needs, those few minutes of undivided attention of just mom and child, or dad and child,
Yeah.
no little brother around or anything else. And so parents are able to see a change already within the first phase.
That's
which
why you
is,
call it special time.
and that's why we call it special time, yes. And so special time, I'm glad you mentioned the special time, because special time is 5 minutes daily each day. I mean, daily at home. And with us, it would be once a week of coming into the office and doing the coaching with the parent.
Yeah.
And so, but then also the second phase of PCIT is the PDI, which is the parent-directed interaction. And this is where now the parent gets to choose what to play. And by giving commands to the child, and we start off with really simple commands like, please hand me the blue toy car, right? And so that way we are already training the child to comply to the command. And if there's no compliance, then there's a consequence. And in this case, PCIT uses timeout. And so sometimes we would hear, but I've tried timeout in the past and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of hard to explain to the parents, well, maybe you have tried it, I don't doubt that. But PCIT had a very specific structured way of the procedure, and that's what makes it work. It's only 3 minutes in timeout. Different things that we would do. If he gets up from the chair, what do you do? So there's an alternate timeout room, we would call it. And so sometimes we would have those sessions where those kids would cry so much in the chair or wouldn't want to stay in the chair. And you could see that parent feeling kind of defeated and just wanting to quit. Yeah. And even I, as a therapist, wanted to bring that child out of the chair and let him go home.
At the beginning.
At the beginning, yes. But then you just, stick with it. And that's what you're coaching the parent, They have the bug in the ear, and you as the coach are telling him, hey, hang in there. He's going to be okay. Yes, he's crying, but it's going to get better. And the child needs to learn to soothe themselves. And that's what you're teaching them. And so, we're trying to get, the parent to just follow through. And that's one of the biggest things with PCIT, following through the whole course, the way we teach it. And then at the end, it was just beautiful when the child, give me the blue card, like we said. And then the first time, they're able to give it. And it's just such an amazing, realization for the parent of, I can do this. Same for the child, I can do this. And even myself as a therapist, when I was in those situations of like, we're a team and we can all do it together. And so PCIT has been such an important part of my career. I will always cherish it. I miss it now that I'm not doing it. But yeah, so I have been doing that, or I was doing that for the past 5 years that I've been with SCAN.
And you got your certification.
And so yes, I was able to, so certification, the very first one, just to become a PCIT therapist, going back to that. So I was trained in Oklahoma University by one of the founders of PCIT, which makes it even better. Beverly, which by the way, I don't know if they sent you an email about she retiring this month.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And you can write a message. I can forward it to you.
Yes, please.
Because they're doing like a yearbook type of thing for her. And you can write a message. So I'll forward you that because that's coming up real soon.
Sure.
And so blessed to have been trained by her. But the actual process to become certified, that's just the initial training. It took more than a year because then COVID hit. And so I probably took about almost 2 years to become certified. But then I had the pleasure of becoming a within agency trainer. They call it the water trainer. And I was trained by John Paul Abner, which you know too. And also so blessed to have been trained by him. So I just feel like I am so equipped with, these skills that I learned at the beginning and now as with an agency trainer.
And for those of you who attended our conference, you will remember John Paul.
Oh, yes.
Because we brought him twice, 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
He's an amazing guy. And so then, let me just go back a little bit if you don't mind. So then, so there's the first phase where you call it the
CDI?
Yeah, the child-directed interaction.
Yeah.
You have toys there?
Yes. Okay. So we set up the toys for the parents, and that's something that we suggest for the parents even at home. When you call them to do the special time, you don't want to have all these toys or let the child pick. You want to pick the parent will pick 2 or 3 toys, so that when it's time for special time, the child will come in and just pick from these, and you don't have to be wasting time. What are we going to do, or what are we going to play? The other thing with special time, there's specific toys that we encourage, just because of the nature of the play and the parents having to do the skills. So we encourage creative toys like Mr. Potato Head or blocks or magnetic tiles. We don't encourage rough play toys like dinosaurs or wrestlers or even Barbies, where it's like pretend talk. You want to be more creative, hands-on, because both parent and child have to be interacting during the play. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha, yeah. So then now I'm going to jump to something else, because we talked about timeout, and it's really important that you brought up the idea that it is timeout as you're the foundation for CDI is child-directed interaction, following the child's lead, developing some skills, and then I guess one of the main skills is paying attention to positive behavior, right?
Yes,
and rewarding that.
Right. Yes. So and the way you reward it is by giving your attention back. And then the opposite side of that is ignoring the negative attention that the kids want, in hopes that the child will stop without the parent actually having to say, stop it, quit it, we're so used to seeing. Right?
Yeah. Which is only reinforces the bad the behavior that we don't like.
Exactly.
When that's amazing that when you are nagging and chastising the kid, then you actually giving attention to that behavior, and the behavior most likely will grow.
Exactly.
Because they're getting that attention. But when you ignore it, if it's something minor, right? Not if the child is going to hit somebody or break something.
Right.
But if you ignore it.
Right. And I'm glad you bring that up, because in special time, we teach the parent to ignore all those attention-seeking behaviors, is what we tell them. But then the behaviors that are aggressive or destructive, those will never be ignored. And special time would stop. And then, there would be a consequence. Depending if the parent is already in PDI, then we would do a PDI procedure, meaning a timeout procedure. But if we're not in PDI yet, and it's still CDI, the parent hasn't learned the procedure yet. If it's aggressive or destructive, then the parent would stop the play, but then discipline however they're doing it at that point in therapy.
Yeah, I got you. And I think that the main thing about, I don't know about the main thing about PCIT, but one of the most important things is the child and the parent connection that they have, the attachment.
Yes.
And how that can be so useful in terms of changing behavior, because the child really enjoys the individual attention because it's connected with that parent. And it's amazing that only 5 minutes can do that. Imagine if they do that 10 minutes. The message that the kid is getting is that you're important to me. I pay attention to you, and it comes from really genuine love, and desire to help your child. Yeah.
Yes. And so we would have parents that, like you mentioned, those 5 minutes and actually when they would come into therapy, it's longer than the 5 minutes, because we would observe the parents 5 minutes in special time, but then we do the coaching. And so the coaching would last between 20 and 30 minutes. So they would have a longer time, right, when they would come to therapy, but that's only once a week. But anyway, the parents would share with me that they would take it as also just the whole time, because they have other kids, and the parent would say, this is our little ritual. It's even the car ride to our office of that one-on-one time, because there's always a little brother in the car and they're fighting, or the mom is not paying attention. So parents would say, it's just our ritual. It's our little thing of coming, spending that one-on-one in the car. And then after our therapy session, they would say, I take them for a treat. We're going to get an ice cream cone from Sonic or something. So they would turn it into like, a little date between mom and child. And how beautiful is that? And here we are thinking just what happens within the therapy when they step into our lobby and leave our lobby, but it was a whole thing before, and it was a whole thing after.
And so the kids are being bombarded with positive messages about how important they are, and that in itself can lead to change in behavior, because they're getting already positive attention from the parents. So then that's really that's really amazing. That the power of the relationship, and I don't know who. I don't know if it was Adler or who it was that said that the most important thing for a child is to receive attention from a caring adult. There's nothing more valuable.
Right.
Yeah. So I wasn't. I mean, I'm trained on PCAT, but I was trained on child-centered therapy many times, and then so then I will have a whole playroom. Now we'll have all kinds of toys, that we don't use in PCAT. But I will have puppets. I will have sandbox. I will have a lot of stuff. And then I'll have some toys that kids really liked it. And then after the session, they will go to the parents and say, I really love this toy. And then future sessions, the parents will say, hey, I bought the toys, but he doesn't play with them.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the toy. It was the fact that he got undivided attention from a therapist, and it's not necessarily the toy. It's the connection with the child. Yeah.
I agree. And during our intake process, when we would ask parents, like, do you play with your child? And, they would say yes. But then when you ask, like, what do you play? And it's mostly the kids are playing and you're just kind of watching, or you're doing chores because, life gets busy and parents have to multitask. And I get it, a parent is doing something while the child plays. And then I would ask, but how about like real play in the moment, of just like no phones and just getting, down and dirty and playing with the child, that rarely happens. And then I also wanted to say what you were saying about it's not the toy. There's a video that we show as part of our care training, which care, we don't have to get into it, but care is derived from PCAT, but it's just like a shorter training that we offer any caregiver that deals with children or any person. And at the end, we like to show this beautiful video that is from Spain, and it's an IKEA commercial. And the children are asked, like, ¿Qué le vas a pedir a los Reyes Magos, right? And then they start listing all these things, a Wii, a soccer ball, whatever. And then, but they also say, just playing with my mom, right? And then the
I'm really moving it right now. Yeah.
Yes, and the parents, and then they ask the child, so if you can only choose one, either the ball or playing with your mom, what will you choose?
Oh,
And they all say the mom.
you're gonna make me cry.
Yeah,
Wow,
you should look it up. Everybody should look it up. It's the IKEA.
That's it. When we were training care.
Do you remember? Yes, John Paul showed us, and Beverly. And I love showing that video because it moves everybody, and it's just like, it's not the toy like you mentioned, and that's why I remember it, because it's not the toy. They can be playing with whatever it is, but it's the parents' undivided attention. And sometimes, like I said, life gets in the way, and so PCAT would help really just make it a part of their lives.
Yeah, building those connections, and I think that then giving commands and providing structure, that is the base is the CDI. The base is the connection. The base is the relationship, and from there, then you can do the discipline. But you cannot do the discipline without that, because it's not going to work.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that we tell parents, because as part of the program I was in, we were getting referrals from kids that were having these behavioral issues either at home or at school. And so we would bring the parents in, and they're like, but when are we going to start the behavior portion? I already want to get into timeout.
I know.
And I would say, hey, we're going to get there. But like you said, this is the foundation. For us to get there, you need to like really strengthen your relationship. And I would say it's not that your relationship is weak. It's strong, but we're just gonna really strengthen it and make it, rock solid, so that we can get there. And before they knew it, we were already ready to get into the timeout portion, and those kids didn't even need it. They were ready.
I think that all parents really love the children, and there's a child therapist that passed away many years ago, and he would say that everybody loves their children a great deal. It's not love that they're lacking; it's that they're lacking skill.
Exactly.
Because we don't learn those things. I didn't learn those skills when I had my children. So parents need to know that you love your children. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's that we want to show you what science has proven of what works, and we know that as human beings, we really thrive for connection. And that is so important, the relationship, yeah. Why are we so focusing so much on the negative behavior all the
Oh
time?
yeah. And I think that's just nature overall.
Yeah.
But right now that you're giving out a message, I want to say something that I just remembered. One of my clients that came into PCIT, it was a year or two ago, mentioned that it was a father, and he said that he was just at night. Well, let me backtrack. So the little boy had behavioral issues at the school, and they were kind of struggling, and a little bit at home too, but mostly at school. And so he said one night, that he was kind of like desperate, like, what do I do? I don't want to spank, and I just want to help. How do I help? And he said that he was going through YouTube. He put, how do I help behavioral issues? And one of your podcasts came up.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And at the time, I don't know who you were interviewing or something, but he said it came up on YouTube, and he said, what? Like, Scan is here in Laredo? And so he called, and he came over, and he was one of my successful cases.
Oh, wow.
And this was such a special case too, because it was mom and dad. Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, and not that the dads don't want to participate, but sometimes it's just so difficult because of work and stuff. And so most of our cases were just mom and child. And this was such a beautiful case because it was mom and dad and child. And so, and he told me, I was just scrolling through YouTube trying to find answers. And then he was just so surprised that Laredo had somewhere to
Yeah.
take his child, because he was ready to go to San Antonio and start doing something about it. And here it was, a la vuelta de su casa, como quien dice, and they did so well, and such a happy outcome. And just because he was scrolling through YouTube and found a video just like this one. So hopefully, I'm hoping that if somebody sees this video soon, it can help you just, find some answers. And we're not offering PCIT anymore, but SCAN has just so many other different programs that can help.
Well, yeah, we can. I think we're gonna take the message of connection. And
Right.
when we talk about your program, we continue building on that, because now we're talking about kids that have behavioral issues,
Right.
impulse control issues. But now we're gonna talk about kids in general. But one of the messages that I want to give fathers is that, if you are part of the child's life in a positive way, you have no idea how many things you can prevent down the line. I think, especially when both caregivers are involved, I think that can be so powerful for the children. Because I used to get kids that were 12, 13, and you still can help them, but the many years have passed already when things are really, really set, in stone, some of them, and it's the time to intervene is when they're little,
Right.
when you can have more of an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Those
but,
wonder years.
Yeah, we have the tendency to only pay attention to negative behavior.
Yes.
So the kids are playing, they're getting along, you don't say anything.
Until they fight.
Don't fight. Hey, stop it! Why don't you do that? Didn't I tell you?
Yeah.
And behave and stuff like that, which is just reinforces.
And yeah, the power of praise goes, so far, and yet we don't do it enough.
You're doing such an amazing job in this podcast. No.
Thank you. So are you?
There you go. And so are Daniela Ortiz, our
I was
artistic
wondering when it
director.
was going to be my turn.
We can do it often.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. I was just wondering. I was
Yeah,
dying
no,
to be in a
nobody told
podcast
me.
with you.
I just do what Daniela tells me.
I don't think so. I think you do what you want.
No. But anyway, going back to now your program. Now let's talk
Yes.
about your program.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can link it,
Yes.
to do that, because I really get moved when I talk about the power of the caregiver connection,
Mm-hmm.
because it can be a mom and a dad, it can be an adopted dad, it can be a foster parent,
Oh, yeah.
it can be a grandparent, it can be somebody who's taking care of kids. That is so impactful.
Yeah.
And then so with that, let's talk a little bit about your program, or a lot about your program.
Yes. Okay. So THV is a brand new program And so this one, I've worked, firsthand with caregivers and children. So this just spoke to me when I found out what it was about, because it's also caregiver and child. The only difference is that I was seeing kids for PCIT, the criteria, and I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah.
So PCIT is for kids roughly 3 to 6 years old, and we say that because if a child is older, they don't care about sitting on a chair, and
Yeah.
so it's that age, right? And so those are the kids we were seeing through PCIT. And so this one is different in the sense that it's babies, and so it's caregivers of children between the ages of 5 and 18 months. Okay, so these are kids that are not talking, maybe not even walking, babies. Okay, and so the caregiver, and so it's Texas Home Visiting Program. Our girls are trained in a curriculum called PALS, and it's Play and Learning Strategies. And I'll explain what PALS is about. But the home visitors obviously go to the parents' home, which is also a great option because parents, they're so busy. Who are they going to leave the other kids with and put babies in a car seat? No, the caregiver comes to your house, and the curriculum is done in their home, which is great. And so the PALS training is teaching parents, because 5 months, like, it's a baby, and parents are probably going to think, like, what am I going to do with my 5-year-old? There's so much they can do.
5-month-old.
5-month-old, I'm sorry. So they teach how to read baby signals, how to respond to those signals, how to carry out, even if they're baby, but you might have your child that goes to school and you have like a routine. You can do the same with your baby. Like, what routine are you giving that baby, even if they're home? Also, reading, the power of reading. And I say reading because you're going to say a 5-year-old is not going to read, or a 1-year-old, no, but just introducing them to books. It's okay for them to put it in their mouth, as long as it's safe.
Yeah.
But if the baby's safe, go ahead and let them put them in their mouth.
But they have those special books that are
yes,
like
we have
plastic,
baby books.
books,
We have baby books, and so the caregivers, the home visitors have their bag packed. We have toys in there that the parents can play with and show them all these skills that we're about to teach them. And so each there's 11 sessions as part of the curriculum. Each session is focused on, like I said, responding to signals or a routine or something. And then they practice within the session. The beauty of this curriculum is that, and different from others, if I must say, what I think is so cool. So during the curriculum, the home visitors take an iPad, because while they're explaining, they show a video of another parent doing what it is that they just taught.
Ah, nice.
But not only are they watching, they're also being recorded. So at the end of the session, the home visitor sets up the iPad, presses record, and so the parent is now going to practice the skills with the child that they just learned.
Nice.
And so it's only 5 minutes. After, now the home visitor is going to show the video and say, what are you noticing? How cool is that? When do we ever get to see us parenting from the outside? You just know what you're doing here, but there's no camera like in Big Brother where you can go back and look what you're doing. So then, you could say, what are you noticing that you're doing here? What do how is the baby responding to you? What do you want to change?
So it's the coaching aspect.
That's a coaching, but the parents are seeing it after the fact through a video. And so that's so cool. I think that's like the coolest part of PALS. Yeah.
So that's cool. That is really nice.
Yeah.
And so then tell us about why is it important, because you said, baby doesn't talk, doesn't move much. Just, all that they do is, you need to change pampers, you feed them, they cry, that's so. And I think one of the things that I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say what I wanted you to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. The brain there is growing at incredible rate, and because those neurons are developing connections, and so. We tend to think that, a baby don't know. Babies, and on the contrary, it's an incredible time where you're actually going to set that structure of the brain, or how the neurons connect in a healthy way.
Oh, yeah.
So then, so you want to talk a little bit about that? In terms of the signals, why it's important to pay attention to that?
Yes, definitely, because you want to, like I said, and I did say, babies don't you might think that they're not learning or that you can't have a teachable
Yes.
moment, but through this, going back a little bit to the curriculum, through the curriculum we teach parents of, like, you can narrate what you're doing even when you're changing a diaper or feeding.
Yes.
So that the baby is already listening to those words, even though they might not repeat them like you said, but their brains are like little sponges that they're already getting all that information and concepts and everything. And so that's what PALS does. It teaches parents those things that they might already know, some of them, but others, like, I might want to try this. And so that's what we're doing with the THV program.
Yeah. So then, I just go back to, and I'm repeating myself a lot about that connection, because it's not so much. Yes, of course, that is going to lead to the child developing verbal skills. And, a lot of it's going to foster the healthy development of that baby. But we do that because the baby feels connected to the caregiver,
Right.
and that is so when you talk to a child, and you want to talk about the servant return, being about when the child makes noises and then the parent attend, and that is a constant interaction. Then the baby gets all excited and stuff like that.
And that's funny that you say that, because that's exactly what PALS is. Definitely. It's the serve and return, where you're responding to the signals of what the baby wants. And then you just keep, there's a part in PALS where we really want to stay a little bit away from the redirecting, as long as the baby's safe.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think, and you take it out of them because but it's like, as long as the baby's safe, you let them play with whatever it is that they're playing with. But yeah, it's definitely serve and return. This is what the parents are learning, of reading the signal and then reacting. So the baby's smiling, you smile back.
Yes.
Whatever it is, the peekaboo, like all those things are what we're seeing through PALS.
And we know that. I mean, I saw the little experiment. I don't know if you guys have seen it or used it, where a mom is looking at the child and is smiling, and the child gets excited. And then mom looks away and looks sad, and the baby feels anxious.
Yes. I think we did see it in one of the trainings,
yeah,
right?
And the baby feels anxious, and that's amazing, because that's such a deep connection that even the child can actually sense, when something is wrong, and that creates anxiety. So
Exactly.
yeah, so that's more motivation for parents to really understand the miracle that they have there and how they need to be involved. So I was going to say something else about that. December. Oh, when you were talking about reading to the child. Yes, definitely the child is going to associate books in a positive way, is going to maybe develop language skills. But also the child is through that connection. I go back to that. This is because he's making that positive connection to the book because of the relationship with the caregiver.
I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
So that's in importance of parents maintaining that connection.
Exactly. And funny that you mention it, because maintaining is actually the name of one of the sessions.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's part. It's responding, and then one of them is maintaining, because it's not only forming it, but then you have to maintain it. And that's where I say, like, PALS kind of stays away from the redirecting, because if the baby's okay, you want to maintain that connection.
But, and I'm thinking about, I don't know why people thought that you redirect the baby, because babies don't need redirection.
Exactly.
Babies need just to be loved and attended to. Let's talk a little bit, because attachment is so important. What do you say with parents that they say, no, I need to leave the baby cry, because if I carry her or him too much, it's going to be dependent on me, embrasilado. What do you say about that?
PALS says it, and I believe it anyway. Yeah, you respond to a baby, no matter what. Yeah. And a baby is too small enough to know embrasilado and all of that. They're not making those connections yet. So I would say just respond to the baby, and no matter what, and because you want to make that baby happy in the sense, right? And because again, it goes back to the connection that you were saying, because you don't want them to have that negative connection to something that, if I'm crying, but then my mom is not responding to me, like, no, you want them always build on that relationship and that connection. So I would say, no, please don't let your babies cry.
And nothing is going to happen. If you provide a lot of attention to the baby, it's not like the baby is going to be dependent. No, it's going to be develop a safe attachment with you.
Yeah, and I know you're busy, right? I also want to say that if the baby's crying, but you're so busy that you can't hold him, it's okay. Get him, make sure they're calm, read the baby signal, and then put him somewhere where you know he's going to be comfortable.
Yes.
Give him to somebody else. Give him to dad. Give him to grandma. But just don't let him cry, and put him in the playpen, wherever it is that they are going to feel comfortable.
Talk to the baby while they're there, while you can be cooking or whatever.
That's what we're teaching, hey, yes, you talk like to the baby like if you're talking to your toddler or to your husband, right? People do baby talk to husbands. Why not baby talk a baby?
It's true. It's true. Yeah, so important that they do that. I have the tendency to, when I go to public places, to look at how people interact with the babies. And I don't want to be critical, but I think it's lack of knowledge and lack of understanding of how important your role as a caregiver is, and how much of an influence you have on the healthy on how your baby girl, your baby boy is going to develop later on. Things we're talking about, math, retaining, paying attention. That is built, because you provide that type of connection. That when I go and when I see people getting angry with toddlers or getting frustrated, then I wonder, the missed opportunities. Or when I see people, that are at a restaurant and they have the baby there in the carriage, but they're on their phones, and the baby maybe is making, and they don't pay attention to it. And how important it is to not miss those moments. Hopefully we can teach people that.
Yeah, and I agree. And speaking of public, then you also have that social pressure of if a child is emotionally dysregulated, because we try to stay away of the tantrum word. They're emotionally dysregulated, and so the parent starts to feel like they're being judged and looked at, from people like you.
Yeah. I go like this. No, I don't make faces. I just.
But they just feel the pressure of people watching, and so that's also hard. So it's a lot of factors, but you're right. There's just missed opportunities, and as PCIT therapists, you kind of want to jump in and say, "Hey, it's okay."
No, but I also feel something that really moves me. I mean, when moms interact with their kids in a positive way, but when I see dads interacting with their babies naturally, and that they, that's really involved, that really makes me really happy. Yeah. So I not only pay attention to bad things,
also the good. Yes.
So then. So I'm going to jump all over the place again, because I'm going to continue with this. But you talked about when dysregulation. So when we say that, it's basically some baby's crying or fussy or
a tantrum.
Throw a tantrum, and we get so frustrated with tantrums, but they're so valuable.
Yeah.
Can you tell them why they're so valuable?
Well, the child is showing their emotions and they're trying to tell you something. Again, going back to their signals, they're trying to tell you something. Bottom line, they want something, they want to tell you something. They don't know how to communicate it to you. And so, they are letting some of that frustration out. And so, you're right, they are so valuable, but how... it just causes stress to parents, and especially in public, like we were saying. Maybe in their home it's okay and they're used to it, but then when they're in public or when it starts happening at school, and now it's dysregulating other kids or it's interrupting their learning time, then that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, but I mean they're incredible moments for teaching, because a child needs help in regulating their own emotions. So. You as a caregiver, a co-regulator with them, So they connected to you. So then if you see a tantrum, think of it as an opportunity, because you can help guide your child to calm down, right? Instead of increasing it. Because, if a toddler is running around or, and you say, stop it or whatever, but I mean, or a child is crying, I'm sorry, then you can say, no, you're sad. And then until child comes down and they say, you calmed yourself, you were able to calm yourself down. So the child practices that ability to soothe themselves, like you said earlier,
Soothe themselves. You reminded me of I was still in PCIT training the first time around, not as a trainer myself. And so we were having consultation calls over there in Oklahoma. And I had a caregiver, which is paternal grandmother. And so she had to come from out of town to take care of her 2 grandsons, because the family was going through a very, very traumatic experience. And so she had to step in. So she says by the time she got here from, I think she was in California or something, the kids had been placed in foster care for a little bit before she got here.
Wow.
So now she has custody of her 2 grandsons, and this is a way older grandma, because I know there's such young grandmas, but this was a way older grandma, and the little boy was 3 years old. And so here she comes for PCIT therapy because of the trauma that the little boy had experienced, and we can get into that. PCIT does work with trauma and other stuff. And so here is grandma, and we are in PDI 1, where it's the first time that she's going to learn how to put the child in timeout. So the child doesn't comply to the command. He's asked to go to the chair, and then if they get off the chair, they go to the timeout room. Right? And so in the timeout room, he had to go, and the child is crying. And after a few minutes, grandma cannot take it, and she says, please take him out. This is it for me. I can't stand him crying. And I am barely a trainee of PCIT, and I'm thinking, this is not the way. But of course, I listened, and I let him out, and they leave. And at this point, she's crying too. And I had such a hard time with that. And I said, I didn't help him, and I also, didn't follow the protocol. What's going to happen? And so I have my consultation call, and I say, and it was Vicky Cook. Or Amanda, I'm not too sure. And I say, hey, this is happening. And the grandma says that's traumatic for him, especially coming from foster care. She doesn't know what he went through, I think. She doesn't want to do it. And she says it's trauma, us leaving him crying. And she tells me, and I'm never going to forget, she says, Melissa, there's nothing traumatic about sitting on a chair. And I said, you're right, And so I didn't think grandma was going to come back to the next session, but she did. And so we're going to start the process again. And I say, are you okay with us trying again if he doesn't comply with the chair? And she's like, well, I don't know. And I said, you know what? I talked to my trainers, and they said there's nothing traumatic about being on a chair. And what the kid is going to learn is to soothe himself, because he needs that, because you're not always going to be there for him. And she says, okay, let's try it. And so we try again. He cries again, but this time I don't intervene. She doesn't intervene. We finally let him soothe himself, because it happens after a few minutes. He just stops crying, and that's one of the criteria. Until they're quiet for 5 seconds, we can get him out of the chair. And so finally he soothed himself, and you can see that,
Yes.
But he did it on his own. And she comes back, and they keep on playing. And grandma said, I can't believe we're leaving happy this time, because last time we both left crying, and now we're both leaving so happy. And I will never forget that face of the grandma telling me she was so grateful, and the little boy just left our office so happy, like if nothing had happened. So beautiful to see.
Yes.
But the importance of, like what you were saying, just those tantrums are there and they're gonna happen, but at the end you want to teach them that self-regulation, because they're not always going to have you.
Well, one of the things that can happen if the temper tantrum increases, then if you give in, what are the consequences of that?
Yeah.
the child doesn't get that experience of regulating,
Mm-hmm.
and then they may continue using that as because that worked, and I went to get whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And which is what a lot of times we do as parents is give in because we think the kids are hurting, we don't like that they cry, and then we make things we increase the problem because we don't allow the child the experience to really go through that strong emotion and calm themselves down, because that can be so powerful for them to know that they can do that.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be afraid of their emotions. They're going to be okay because they know that they have that ability to regulate them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing. So I know that you're also trained in trauma. So what happens? Because I know babies, the little one, they're little, they don't talk. And there's sometimes we have stuff happening in the family, and the baby's there.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't think, oh, the baby doesn't know. So
Oh, yeah.
what would you say about that?
No, yeah, they know, and they know what's going on. And we were talking about earlier about, even if though they're babies, they're getting all those, when you said of the example of the mom, the face, and how he was able to perceive that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same thing that happens. Those babies are able to perceive what is going on. And yeah, it definitely affects them.
Yeah, and then so then yelling, in the family can really impact them. Not getting their needs met on time,
Yeah.
sometimes because issues within the family. Those I guess create in the baby a sense that the world is not safe, and that may lead them to develop some problems later on. But I guess I just wanted to say that we think the babies don't know, and on the contrary, it's a greater impact because there's such a early stage in development that they're a lot more vulnerable than older kids.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so is there anything else about your program that we need to talk about?
I think, if you have a baby that is 5 to 18 months old, and you just want extra parenting skills, sometimes it may be your first baby or a baby after having an older child, or it doesn't matter. Our services are free. They can self-refer. You don't need a referral from anybody. Again, the person goes to your house, so you don't have to leave your home. We also provide some incentives. If little toys are needed for that specific session that they're doing, we can take some. And it's 11 sessions, like I said. And yeah, about an hour, it would take for the home visitor to go to do their session.
So services are free.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting a really good intervention that is research-based. You get qualified staff that are trained. You don't have to leave your home.
Yeah.
You get extra support.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't cost a cent. I don't know if I already said that. So these are funds that come through the state and through the Health and Human Services Commission, that and the Department of Family and Protective Services, for you to really strengthen families in our community. So please take advantage of that. Even if you don't think that there's anything wrong with your baby, you can always learn something new. And we have really great experts here that can do that. So then we already say the age and all of that.
Yes,
so.
5 to 18 months. That's the
Yeah.
only criteria. Have a child that is 5 to 18 months old and that they live in Webb County. That's it.
So what if it's a dad that is alone?
Oh, definitely. Caregiver. It could be grandma, mom, dad, whoever.
Grandpa
Grandpa.
can
yes.
be foster dad, or
Foster
parents,
dad, foster
anybody.
mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's amazing. So, well, I don't have anything else to say. It was just a pleasure talking with you.
Same
And,
to you. Finally, I was invited to do this.
It's such a source of pride for me, and I get really emotional when I see young people like you that develop. But we got you really right off, right out of school.
Yes.
And then you acquire so much experience and skills, and now you're heading a program. So So what do they have to do? They have to call the number? What do they have
Yes,
to do?
they can call my number, and then I have an email too. I don't know if it's able to be
Yeah, I
provided
think
later.
Daniela's going to put
Yes,
it in.
and they can call or email and just sign up for the program. We don't have a waiting list. We're starting off. We're ready.
So that's great. That's amazing. I was going to say something else, but I forget. I'm getting old. So thank you once again for being with us in this podcast. And we'll continue having other podcasts in the future so we can continue informing you about issues that are really important to you, and then also about the services that we provide that can address those needs. So I hope you guys have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.